This poem is called The Illiterate Stockman, or if there are any tautologists here, the illiterate stockman who couldn't read or write. Anytime you travel in Australia's great outback, always listen carefully to folk along the track. You'll hear a host of stories, powerful and true, like this one from the Murchison and the grand old town of Kew. Old Ernie was a stockman. He'd also been a drover. He was brought up in the mustering camps and knew the whole state over. As a younger man, he'd ridden north as far as Billaloona to bring cattle down the Canning to the railhead at Balloona. But now as age was catching up and the weather was unkind, he wandered into town one day with a holiday in mind. But before he got aboard the train in his holiday attire, he received a proposition from the foreman of the Shire. He said, "What I'm about to tell you will fairly make you weep. Our sanitary contractor won 10,000 in the sweep. He took to heavy boozing and then resigned his post, and at last report had bought a car and was headed for the coast. So if you were civic minded, and I'm sure that is the case, we'd hoped you might cooperate and maybe take his place." Ernie scratched his balding head and answered with a smile, "I was going on a holiday, but yeah, I'll help out for a while." Contract forms were then produced to keep things watertight. It was only then they all found out Ernie couldn't read or write. "No good to us," the foreman said, "if the contract can't be signed." So Ernie got aboard the train and went on down the line. Now, in 40 years of bushman, he'd earned a lot of money, but he'd never ever banked it. Most people thought this funny. So Ernie's rooskin wallet was solid as a brick, and give or take a little, was several inches thick. A friendly salesgirl stared at it when he was in her shop, and fearing for its safety, she went and called a cop. He said, "To walk around with that, you'd have to be a crank. Take my advice, old fellow, and put it in the bank." So he took old Ernie with him to meet a banking gent who vowed to guard his client's cash at interest 5%. They started in to count the roll, 3 members of the staff, who, knocking off for morning tea, had tallied only half. When it was finally totted up to the vault, they did consign it. They made out a deposit slip and said, "Sir, would you sign it?" When Ernie said he couldn't sign, he'd had no proper schooling, everybody was amazed. They thought that he was fooling. The manager said, "We all have seen your cash accumulation, and now you say you did it without an education. If you had been taught to read and write, can anybody say what you would have ended up or where you'd be today?" Ernie smiled his little smile. He said, "I'll tell you true, I'd be back out in the Murchison as the dunny man at Kew." Thank you.